Hello, hello. I'm sorry for the delay. I was hoping to get started closer to 11:30 and it took me about 15 minutes to get everything behind the scenes worked out, but I am ready to celebrate National Sew a Jelly Roll Day here in 2024. This is always a fun event to any excuse to celebrate with fabric is a win in my book. And I hope you are having a fun time today digging through your jelly rolls, whether they are prepackaged from the quilt shop or make your own. I have a video all about that. There are lots of strip cutting tools out there. So we're just going to dive in and get going. There may be a little bit of jumbling around the camera because I definitely want to sit and sew. So I'll need to get that camera angle all worked out. But let's talk about the prep. This is the jelly chain pattern that I am using, and you can find a link to the pattern. The block instructions are on my website, and that is linked in the video description. And I have made jelly chains before. So this is the quilt that I am basing my block on. And it comes from a quilt called Green Frost that I made years ago as part of my first book of patterns, Monochromatic Quilts. And you can see, if I get really close there, that we are just making almost a log cabin type block with this chain of white squares in the middle. And I need to get busy and sew the sample block because I got all my cutting. This has been a crazy week juggling all the things that go on in people's lives. And so as I was prepping, I have my stack of 2.5-inch squares. I just cut my own strips from white fabric. These red and blue squares came from a jelly roll package, my favorite company, Island Boutique. So I cut 2.5-inch squares. I cut 4.5-inch rectangles, and I cut 6.5-inch rectangles. So the first thing that you do is you make a 4-patch with your red and blue. And I'm just going to continue to name my colors red and blue. So whatever you saw in the green quilt, there were light fabrics and dark fabrics. So if you want to divide your fabrics up that way, if you want to use 2 colors, that's fine. So after you get your block going, you need to decide how that block is going to be oriented so that you can keep things straight. I'm going to have my squares, my white chain, go from bottom left to top right. So it's going uphill across the block. And then you just add your fabrics to the side. So now I've taken my 4.5-inch and put it next to the red. Now I'm going to need my blue, but I have to add that white chain so that it'll fit on these pieces. So I've got 2 blocks going now. I'm going to do some chain piecing along the way, and I will explain each step as we go. So hold on to your glasses, look away for a second. This is your motion warning as I get my camera angle turned so that you can see my sewing machine as well. And definitely put in the comments what color jelly roll strips you're using and where you're joining us from. I am here in sunny Phoenix, Arizona, and I don't think we are going to hit 100 degrees today, which is a good thing. We've had a record-setting long, hot summer. So it's nice to celebrate jelly rolls and cooler temperatures. Get my drink out of the way. Like I said, we need to put I'm always going to add the white squares to my blue fabric, except for that first initial 4-patch. So I'm going to get some of these units prepared with a white square and my blue rectangles. And I'm going to have to stop and wind a bobbin here at some point very soon, because I also didn't pay attention. This is a tone on tone. You can almost see the leaves there. And I didn't check if I sewed right sides together on that first strip, because when the stack of fabric is batiks, you don't really worry about it. But for that white fabric, I should have paid attention. Let's see. And I like to do scrappy, so I'm kind of digging through my my pile of fabrics here so that I don't end up with the same 3 blues in a block. Although for a random pattern that may happen, right? So I kind of get things spread out as I'm trying to force a random selection. Sometimes it is easier to work with just a standard set layout of colors. So let me get my blocks going here. Yeah, and I did put that wrong side out. But you know what? Bonnie Hunter told me long ago, you paid for both sides of the fabric, you can use both sides of the fabric. So I am finger pressing, and I'm going to go ahead and let's see. I need to press to my blue to make that line up. So now I've got my blue that's going to stack on top of blue. My chain is going to continue across the block. And we are ready to go. Once I have this first sample block ready, then it'll be a lot easier to chain piece, because I will know how the layouts go as we get going here. And I don't know if you can tell on this fabric, there's some extra threads here. I had to rip out because I put my red on the wrong side. You know, you have 2 choices for which side you want your red block to go. That's why it's important to always line your chain up the same way. And this, and I did it wrong again. These blocks are not going to match. So I'm going to set this aside so that I can match it up with my other one. This is just a sign I've been doing too much craziness this week, that I didn't slow down enough to get things organized before I started. So welcome to my crazy world, folks. So I am just grabbing my red and my blue so that I can start a new 4-patch. And just like I was saying, it helps to have a reference when you get going. So the blue strips will all have the white squares. The red, we do not need a white square on. Block is building. So if we compare our 2 blocks, oh, look at that, I did do it right. So I have my 4-patch and I have my red on the correct side. Okay, that makes me feel better. And I need to finger press towards my colors, and then it will line up there. I got myself confused as to which way that 4-patch was going to be oriented. You want everything in the same orientation to begin with, so that when you do the layout, you can twist and turn your final blocks. So we are trying to get, you know, the more blocks you have, the more fun you can play with the layouts. Okay, so now that I've got that one going, I can continue with the layout. So now I need one of my longer reds, and you just keep building that kind of log cabin style on the two sides. And the nice thing about this is that with these single rectangles, there's really no need to pin on that half of the block because it should all line up, and hopefully you can hold your fabrics together as they go under the needle. And let me go ahead and start another 4 patch so that we have that ready to go. So these blocks are going to start coming together pretty darn quickly once we have all the components built. So let me know if you are a chain piecer. So would you make all the 4 patches at once, or would you sew 1 block or 2 blocks at a time? I do a lot of sampler quilts, so I'm kind of in the habit of doing just 1 block at a time. But once I get myself organized here, we can really start chain piecing and, you know, mass production. Here is the 4 patch with 1 round. Here is I'm ready to add my last strip here. And I will just add that blue on the next side. And you could continue building with the chain as big as you wanted your blocks. I did the 3 sizes because that works nicely with our jelly roll. You get 3 cuts per strip, and it makes an 8.5-inch block. So if you wanted to cut longer pieces, go up to so I did the 246. You could add an 8.5-inch unit and a 10.5-inch unit, and that would give you a 12.5-inch block overall. But that math did not work as well for me working with jelly roll strips. Obviously, if you're cutting your own, you would have a little more leeway there. But I was trying to stick within the dimensions for 1 jelly roll plus the white fabric. So let me... Oh, no, I need this one. So we add the 6.5-inch red. And there is the jelly chain block. I said I was building it this way uphill. For me on camera, it may look the other direction, but we will play with these blocks once we get a significant amount. But very, very easy. Start with your 4 patch, build your sides. Okay, I'm going to start my chain piecing efforts here, and now that you have seen what the end result is, I wonder if I could. I am going to whoops. There we go. Now you can see the block that we're making today. The white obviously disappears into the white sections of my banner, but that gives you a visual of what we're doing. I need to, make that into a better design wall. Do you have a design wall in your space? Let me know. But we will make do with what we have. So as I said, I am just chain piecing, and I'm starting with my 4-patch components. So I am just alternating. Also a red square for my warm pile of fabrics, and then I will immediately grab a blue square and sew the blue square, and then we're back to red. And then blue. And then red. I also worry that chain piecing gets too boring when you're on a live stream with someone. So help us out. I'm going to pile these up, and then I couldn't stand it anymore. I have to keep working on the blocks rather than just chain piece all the tiny squares. Okay, so I added my warm piece, and now I will finish with my cool piece that has the white square attached. So you only, with my 6-inch cuts, 6.5 inch, divide them by color, only add the white square to one set. This set will just get added to the block, and then these have a white square and they'll get added to the block in this second step. And this is a piece where I will pin. I don't need to pin the 4-patch. I don't need to, well, actually I do pin the 4-patch. Anytime I have that white square lining up, I want that point to be as crisp as possible. So I will pin that. But these two red pieces, the warm colors, do not need to be pinned. I can just hold those in place as I sew. And then my 4 patches can act as little leader enders in my sewing. And the great thing about squares is you don't have to worry about the orientation, because you can rotate those around the way you need to make our chain. I need some background music. I tend to sew in silence. Which is fine when it's just me in the sewing room, but when I have an audience to entertain, this is a great block to work on anytime you have that chain piecing and lots of units. You could do that in a group really easily. I keep grabbing this pin and it's bent, and so I need to put it in the discard pile. Okay, and I have one more ready for chain piecing.